Before we get into the podcast, I just wanted to let you know that my free meditation course is available for download below. And this is the very same meditation that I use on a daily basis to calm any anxious thoughts, release any tensions in my mind and body, and relieve any daily stresses that I face. So, if you want to get started on your meditation journey, just click below and download my free meditation course. And when you download my free meditation course, you're going to get 12 video lessons that I personally recorded to teach you the fundamentals and the basics of meditation. Again, this is the very same meditation that I do on a daily basis to calm my anxious thoughts, relieve tensions, and release my stresses. So click below, download the free meditation course, and get started on your meditation journey today. Hello and welcome back to the Deep Topics podcast with Shaun. I'm your host, Shaun, and this is episode 5. Wow, it's been a journey and it's been a wonderful journey. And I'm so glad and grateful that you've joined us here today. And thank you for being here. So if you're new to the podcast, this is Deep Topics with Shaun. I'm your host, Shaun, and this is a platform that I created to be able to speak about deep topics that we wouldn't otherwise talk about in daily living because to be honest, daily living involves a lot of superficial conversations. And what I noticed in my life was when I have deep conversations that I feel fulfilled and I feel so much fulfillment that I wanted to create a space where I could have more of these conversations with more people like you. So if you like this podcast, then please make sure to give it a like, whether you're listening to this on Spotify or watching this podcast on YouTube, and leave a comment or review on the platform and let me know what you think about today's episode. Let me know if you agree or disagree with anything that has been shared in this podcast, and let's start a conversation in the comments down below. Subscribe if you'd like to receive more notifications, if you'd like to see more of Deep Topics podcast on any platform that you're watching or listening. And join the community and let's have more deep topics going forward. So in today's episode, I wanted to talk about my business journey. And this is a story that started way back when I was in art school. And let me start from the beginning. In 2019, I was working a corporate job in a startup that was selling financial services products to small businesses. And one thing that I recognized from that experience was that I was dealing with an angry, controlling boss. And there was a conversation that we once had in one of the meeting rooms where I recognized that if I continue to stay longer in this business, that I'm going to end up with some of the terrible characteristics that this boss was exhibiting. And from that point onwards, I knew that I no longer had a future in that business because I knew the type of person that I wanted to be. And I also knew the type of person that I didn't want to be. And I recognized that the more I spent time in that space around that person, the more I would become like them. So when I had the opportunity to leave that job, it just so happened to coincide with the period of intense burnout. After I left that job, I moved back to live with my mom. But before I moved to Greytown, what I did was that I submitted an application to art school and I put together a bunch of drawings and my application and I sent it off, and I did not have any certainty about whether I was going to be accepted to art school, especially because I was learning how to draw again from having left the skill at 6 years old. And I was really doing my best to, throughout that year of living in Joburg, create artworks, put them on my wall, and know that when the time came for me to leave that job, that I would have enough of a portfolio to be able to apply. So I sent that application, I got into art school, and I then left Greytown and I went back to UCT to study art. In my second year of art school, I knew that I was not going to have funding for a third year. So the first thing that I wanted to do was that I dropped one of the courses in my second semester to make sure that I had enough time to work on future plans. I also recognized that whatever was going to happen after this year needed me to start working on some long-term goals. knowing that I wasn't going to complete art school, it did take me into a space of depression, but it was not too much of a depression as what I faced previously when I left the first job that I worked in Durban, and when I left that other job that I worked in Joburg. This type of depression, it because I was in art school, it was a momentous occasion to create artwork that was representative of the circumstances of my life at the time. And so in August of that year, of my second year of art school, what I did was that I opened a business and I registered this business on the CIPC. And at the time, I called this business OG Foundation. And I called it OG Foundation because I wanted it to be the foundation of a meaningful and impactful person. At the time, in popular culture, OG is known for like an original. And so I wanted at the time for it to represent the creation of someone, of some impactful, meaningful person, that business in some way was going to support the foundation of an impactful and meaningful person. I did not at the time know what that business was going to be. But I did know that what I was watching online, I was watching drop shipping, and I was watching these content creators to like get rich and get like generate millions off their drop shipping businesses. And so that for me was the first step in creating that business. Was after I registered that business, I remember purchasing a course on drop shipping, and I remember paying like 7,000 rand for this person's course on drop shipping. And watching throughout those videos and learning how to do drop shipping was, well, I was making use of the course, right? So what I did firstly was that I learned how to create a store on Shopify, and that was to create a website. And I was also learning copywriting at the time, and I was learning how to connect a third party drop shipping provider to that store. And I really did put it into practice. And the first store I created was like a pet store. I don't know what I call it, OG Talking Pets or something, right? Because my business was called OG Foundation. So OG Talking Pets was my first store, and I remember like populating that store with a bunch of products. And there were a bunch of products like a paw cleaner. It looked like a cup, and it really did, like you take your pet's paw and you like put some soap water in there, I guess, and you clean their paws before they enter the house. So putting all of those into that store was my first step. And then the next thing that I had to learn was like social media advertising, because once you create your store, you then have to send people to the store to, I don't know, gather their consideration and incentivize them to purchase. So I learned Facebook advertising, and I learned about campaign creation and all of these types of things. I continued to test that store, and it didn't receive any sales. So that was an eye opener for me, because I recognized at the time that this is going to be more challenging than I thought it was. And when you watch sometimes successful people, they kind of can sometimes create the perception that if you merely follow their advice, that you're going to generate similar results to them. But one thing that I recognized, that it was going to be more challenging than I thought it was. And that for me was very much an eye opener, but it was a necessary lesson about the work that it takes to generate a significant amount of income. Anyways, that year ended, and I went to live with my aunt in Pietermaritzburg because my business did not work out at the time. So from Pietermaritzburg, what I did was that I continued to work on a bunch of different stores. And I remember from January, February, and March, continuing to test this dropshipping idea and to see whether it would generate the fruits of my labor. And so one thing that I recognized was that I was creating these landing pages. And so I started to think about what type of service could I offer based on the skills that I was practicing at the time. And so one of the skills that I learned at the time was copywriting. And copywriting is about creating persuasive text that is often used in marketing and advertising. And in addition to that, landing pages. So I remember creating a profile on this platform called Fiverr, and Fiverr is for freelancers. So I put together that profile and I made sure to send to create a profile on Fiverr and to offer this skill of creating landing pages. Again, it was more challenging than I thought, and I didn't receive any clients about creating landing pages. But I still grew in my ability to develop the expertise of putting myself out there. One thing that I was becoming more comfortable with was that putting myself out there was the way to develop the skill, was the way to iterate on what I was learning. So Fiverr didn't work out, but then I recognized that I had the copywriting skill, and what could I do? What was I was starting to ask that question of like, what really can I offer the world that would be a representation of the value that I have? And I also started to ask the question of what was I passionate about? And looking long term, what was a business that I really wanted to create that was aligned with the thing that I was passionate about? Because one thing that I started to contemplate at the time was that whatever that business was, it had to be something that I would be good at. Because how could I then teach people or sell something that I myself was not good at? And the thing that started to come to mind was meditation. So around May, remember from the time I created that business, which was August of 2021 to February of 2022, was me testing dropshipping. From February of 2022 to May of 2022 also, I was doing like landing pages, copywriting, and so forth, web page design and those types of things. I moved from trying to do drop shipping to trying to offer the skill that I was using in drop shipping, which was landing page design and copywriting, to then from May 2022 asking myself, how can I use these skills to then offer something that I believe to be of value and that other people might believe to be of value? And I remember the first thing I offered in May of 2022 was spiritual life coaching, because I had been speaking to someone called Shaun, who for a long time was a mentorship figure in my life. And Shaun introduced me to coaching, which was about supporting others with the attainment of a specific goal. So I recognized that I had this coaching skill that I was developing in, and I also had this passion of meditation and spirituality, and I could bring the two together. So spiritual life coaching, I also remember I created this pamphlet of services, and I also had the Facebook. Remember, I had the Facebook advertising skill, and so I put the pamphlet on Facebook. And I remember creating a video for social media advertising, and the video spoke about the types of things that one would go through in their life, and how could I guide and support an individual with that. The video accompanied a something called a lead generation magnet, and this was a short ebook that I wrote. I remember the ebook was called Peace and How to Have It, and I wrote the short ebook, and it really did summarize what I myself had practiced in my life to be able to get my mindset into a space of peacefulness. So I put together that pamphlet, I put together the video, and I put together the ebook, and I offered all of that in a lead generation campaign on Facebook, and I continued to receive leads. So now I knew I was onto something. I knew I was onto something in that people were starting to reach out to me to get this free coaching call that I was offering. So I started to offer the free coaching call, and I started to gather insights from my conversations with people about what were the types of things that they were struggling with and how could I support them. I also gathered insights about like what type of plan I could offer in my spiritual life coaching business. So from May 2022 all the way up to August of 2022, which was a 4-month period, I was talking to a lot of people and I was getting like a client here and there, starting with one paid session and then moving to four paid sessions and moving to 12 paid sessions and so forth. So I started to gather insights more about how to improve my skill of spiritual life coaching, but also what are the types of things that people are facing challenges with that I could then improve my marketing, and also how to price my offering to make it um, appealing to the type of client that I was working with. So by August of 2022, I was having conversations with my aunt and my grandmother about what my next steps were. And I started to recognize that I wanted to live in Cape Town again. And living in Cape Town was the place that I decided was my home, because remember, I was kicked out of the home that I was living in Greytown with my mom by my uncle. And so I really did not have a home anymore. And I needed to find where was my home. So I recognized that testing Joburg, testing Durban, testing Cape Town felt most like my home. And so I wanted to live there again. And my income was at a relatively decent level for me to live in Cape Town. So by August, I was having those conversations, not really knowing where I was going to live yet, but I was having conversations about what was going to happen next. By September, I started to look for a place to stay. And I remember, all that I could afford at the time was up to 1,000, maybe 1,500 in rent. And so I was looking for places of that. And there are places in the northern suburbs and the Cape Flats and so forth. So I found a place in Delft. And I lived in Delft. I remember finding a place for 1,200 for rent. And so I moved there at the end of September, and my business was starting to grow. And I remember acquiring clients for 12-month coaching packages. And the offering at the time was spiritual life coaching, yes, but specifically about developing mental clarity, emotional stability, and inner peace. Because I started to see that some of the clients that I was working with were facing they were facing volatile and challenging situations in their lives that required them to get to a space where they needed a sense of imperturbability. And what imperturbability was like inability to be shaken. Because they were shaken so often by life circumstances, what I was offering in my 12-month coaching package was, I'm going to teach you how not to be shaken by life. And somewhere in there is a practice of meditation, and I'm going to tell you how to do that. I'm going to show you how I personally did that. And I got to a space where, regardless of life circumstances, that I too had the sense of imperturbability. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So from September 2022, I was teaching spiritual life coaching, and it started to become more like meditation. So somewhere around February of 2023, I remember recognizing that meditation is actually the thing that is purposeful and meaningful to offer. And I'm going to rebrand this business from spiritual life coaching into the Deep Meditation Center. In February 2023, I remember rebranding the business into the Deep Meditation Center. And from that point onwards, from February 2023 up until July 2023, I was only doing meditation, because I started to recognize that, firstly, I meditate, and that's a thing that I can become an expert in. Secondly, there's deep need for meditation, because a lot of people are being thrown off by life's challenges, and they need to find a centering for themselves, and meditation is the way to do that. And I find it deep, meaningful, and purposeful, because meditation is a way to connect with one's inner self. It's a way to connect with peace, and it's a way to connect with deep inner silence. And that's often the place to find that inner peace. I know that as my life continues to progress, as I continue to meditate, I'm going to become better and better at meditation. And that's the thing that I can be an expert in. And so the skill that I can offer is to assist others with meditation. So I started to refine my business going forward. I started off with drop shipping, but then I learned some skills there of landing page creation, copywriting, and social media marketing. management. And I started to then use that to offer something that I personally wanted to get better at. And so I recognize that, okay, let me start with spiritual life coaching. Let me get a feel of how the audience is reacting with this. Is there a need for this type of service? And yes, people did. At some point they wanted someone to listen to their challenges and problems, and they wanted the guidance of how to proceed, and they wanted to get to a space of deep stability in their life. And I found out that meditation was a way to do that. So I remember creating the deep meditation center and putting forward that skill. In July 2023, I remember recognizing that I had a psychedelic trip, and I remember recognizing that the environment that I was living in was very much unhealthy for my mental, physical, and emotional well-being. Living in Delft had too much of its challenges, and in the psychedelic trip, I was shown a vision of my future self that was healthy, whole, and functioning, full of vitality, and kind of that trip, in that instantaneous intuitive insight, I received all of the information of what needed to be done at the time. So I remember applying for this job in data analysis because that was also a skill I had, and then I was successful at that job in August of 2023. What happened in August of 2023 was that I remember telling the job that I could only start in September, so I needed a break. Actually, I took a 1 week break, and I went to live with my aunt again, my grandmother, and my cousin in Pietermaritzburg, and that was my 1 week break from everything before I started this new job in data analysis. At the same time, I was also looking for a new place to stay, and I was looking throughout Facebook. I found this place in Sunningdale, and I remember talking a previous episode about being optimistic about living in this place, and so I paid like a 5,000 rand deposit and a first month's rent to live with this woman in Sunningdale in a house sharing. So the downfall of my move was that at that time, I abandoned the business and I started to become too much focused in data analysis. And one thing that I recognized when I went to live in Sunningdale was that this woman was very much controlling. I remember talking about this previously, and I stopped meditating. This woman was very much controlling. I remember feeling so trapped trapped by my decision that I faced like a minor health challenge in the 30 days that I was living in Sunningdale. And also in those 30 days I was looking for a new place to live. The new place to live that I found was a place in Claremont, which was my dream location, my dream apartment, which I'm still living in right now. And the unfortunate thing also was that I stopped working on my meditation business because I was too much focused on data analysis. And I started to like become absorbed in a life of what would a future me look like in data analysis, but also like coding and creating an app around meditation that I think was the pursuit of the wrong path. The pursuit of the wrong path was making me move too much into something I didn't have enough information about, but felt at the time that it might be a next step. Well, I don't regret taking the actions that I did because I remember from doing my data analysis work, I had skills in the SQL programming language. And I also at the time was learning Swift programming, coding for Apple ecosystem devices. I also remember using the GPTs to code my app. And I remember I did successfully code the sign up login page, and I coded the list of meditation audios. And I was looking into like where to store these audios on an online server and so forth. So I did make significant progress on what a meditation app looked like. At the same time, I was coding this meditation app more so because I recognized that in my personal meditation journey, one thing that I found beneficial was that there were these meditation audios that I sometimes use in addition to pure observation meditation. So I could offer these meditation audios to others, and I could personally curate and create the meditation audios called binaural beats. So I think, even though I wasn't really ready to fully create a full meditation app, um, I was on the right track and I made significant progress. And I, again, were developing some skills on like programming and user interface creation and putting together my copywriting and graphic design skills to create the logo for this app and all of these types of things that I was doing with creating the app. Okay, I'm going to pause there for a second and I'm going to tell you again that if you want to learn meditation, then click down below and download my free meditation course. It will help you get started with meditation, and it's a very same meditation that I use to calm my anxious thoughts and to release tensions and relieve stresses on a daily basis. This is the meditation that I use on a daily basis, and I've recorded 12 video lessons to guide you. So if you're finding challenge with how to meditate, then click down below and download my free meditation course. It's going to help you get started as soon as possible. So click down below and get started on your meditation journey immediately. Okay, so remember, I started that data analysis job at around like August, and around March, I started to get an indication that that job was changing. And one thing that I started to recognize was that, firstly, that was an unhealthy environment for me to work in, and it was very much mentally and emotionally detrimental on my well-being. And I started to also recognize that I needed a way out, and that way out, I did not know how it was going to go. But one thing that was starting to eat at me was that this job did not offer the freedom that I thought it did. Because when I was looking for a job, I remember looking throughout these job websites for remote work. And I remember looking at that job and thinking, oh, it's advertised as remote work. I'm going to have freedom and flexibility to work wherever I want at any time. When I actually got into that job, I recognized, no, it's not remote work, it's a hybrid. And some of the people that I'm working with were actually very much like destructive personalities. And they had this like cold, harsh, and cruel attitude towards them. And it was very much like dystopian. It was a dystopian environment in which I recognized that this is so much unlike anything I thought it would be. And I'm glad that I got the opportunity to see this, and I'm glad that with the months of income that I did earn, everything that I did manage to achieve and to create in my life. But this is not something that is my future. And so I needed a way out. And I also started to recognize that whatever I was going to do next needed me to be a bit more clear about getting back on track to the thing that I wanted to offer. And getting back on track to the thing that I wanted to offer was meditation, because my meditation journey was started to turbocharge in a different dimension. Like I remember when I was meditating in 2021 in my second year of art school, doing 1 hour meditation was very challenging. But now in 2024, doing 1 hour meditation was like nothing for me. It was very much essential. And I remember dealing with such weird and fucked up things in that data analysis job that there would be times that I would meditate for 3 hours, because I found out that meditation was like smoothing. If I dealt with some weird and fucked up things in that job, it would leave me with this like mental and emotional residue in my mind and body. And I needed to eliminate that so that I was not holding bad vibes going forward. And I recognized that the deep meditation would help me to eliminate these bad vibes from my mind and body. And like if I use this example of a piece of fabric, that meditation would help iron out those wrinkles so that when I woke up the next day, I wasn't holding on to any destructive mental and emotional influences. So I started to really see how deep and meaningful meditation was, and how profound it was starting to like, of an impact it was starting to have on my life. At this point, there was no doubt that meditation was the thing that I needed to do and I needed to focus on and I needed to prioritize. And it was my everything going forward because it was a way to, like, if anything needed my attention in my life, it was meditation. Sometimes we go throughout life and we put our attention into various types of lifestyle things that are not necessarily helpful. So, for instance, some people, so meditation I definitely recognized was a thing that needed my attention. And I also knew from some of my learnings previously that I did create a business in meditation, and I did have experience with coaching people in meditation, and I did also have insights from what people are facing challenges with. And people face challenges with being thrown off by life's challenges, and the way I recognized to restore a sense of stability was with meditation. So after I left the data analysis job, after I recognized that I really did not want to be around cold, harsh, cruel people that really did not have any empathy and compassion, I recognized that going forward, I need to get back on track with meditation. And so getting back on track with meditation required a rebranding of my business. And so the rebranding of that business was Deep Meditators. Because remember, as a deep meditator myself, I fully recognize the benefits of deep meditation. I also recognize that it's so profound and significant doing deep meditation that I want to spread the word to others. And I want to also make it such that meditation is not understood to be this like esoteric practice that's mystical and so forth. It's not, it's actually about your mental health and your mental well-being. And I know that some people, some meditation spaces frame meditation as this thing for like monks and gurus to do, but I'm starting to see that meditation is really a human lifestyle behavior that is very much needed for effective and optimal functioning in our daily lives. So, as a deep meditator myself, I rebranded my business as Deep Meditator. So, having all of the skills, I put together the website again, I put together the landing page for the meditation course. I started to recognize also that my personal brand was very much necessary, and I needed to communicate my expertise on of meditation and its benefits and its various connecting factors on various social medias. I also recognized that the creation of a personal brand required some type of long form content, and that the one thing my future self needed to do was to have a podcast, because my podcast was the way to communicate the value in a long form format, and that podcast would be on YouTube. So when it was time to create the podcast, I remember purchasing the ring light, which in front of me right now. And I remember after I left that job in data analysis, I purchased the mics. Here they are. I remember also sometime in March purchasing a new phone, an iPhone, because I recognized that this whole podcast setup only needed three things, and it needed the ring light, the mic, and the iPhone. Which now I had them, so I could start episode 1. And I remember starting episode 1 in June. We're in July now, and I'm doing episode 5. From my previous experience, I remember working in this business in 2018, which was a marketing business, and they spoke about omni-channel marketing strategy. And I remember Gary Vee also talking about omni-channel marketing strategy, which is about taking a piece of long-form content and to distributing it on your various social media platforms in different formats. In that way, creating multi-purpose use for one piece of content. So what I did was that I knew that, okay, from this podcast, I must create short clips, and I must post short clips on various social medias, and I must tailor those clips to various social medias to match the intent of that social media platform and to resonate better with that specific audience. So one thing that became evident to me from throughout this entire time was that my skills from the beginning were very much, I had skills in copywriting, I had skills in web page design, I had skills in graphic design, I had skills in social media content creation. I also learned from coaching that the future was being able to communicate oneself. And so to be able to communicate myself was the thing I needed to do. And I had experience with that previously from deep meditation center videos, which were very rough. Honestly, those videos were rough. They were like, they were me practicing how to do short form content creation. So I had that practice. And then when I created this podcast, it was a level two of iterating on what I had done before. So I knew that the podcast could not be like deep meditators podcast because I I wanted to appeal to a more wider audience. And the thing that I recognized perhaps from that deep meditators brand was that I could call it Deep Topics Podcast, which I've done. And then I also learned from my expertise throughout all of this time was that the thing to communicate is about thriving in a volatile world. Because I remember previously, the clients that I'd spoken to often face challenges with mental clarity, emotional stability, and inner peace. And the thing to provide them of value was imperturbability, which is inability to be shaken by life's challenges. And the way I found to thrive in a volatile world was to have mental clarity, emotional stability, and inner peace. And the way to facilitate those things was with the practice of meditation. So it felt ideal to call my podcast Deep Topics, Thriving in a Volatile World. Now that I'm in this space where I've successfully created again my business, one thing that I recognize is that going forward, I need to now put more effort and attention and energy into strengthening my personal brand. And my personal brand appears to be around meditation, appears to be around sharing the benefits of meditation, appears to be around teaching people meditation, appears to be around uh, recontextualizing meditation into an everyday beneficial practice for mental health and mental well-being and mental clarity. And that's what I think is the way forward for me. It's continuing to share value and insights on the various platforms. And something that I'm seeing is very much beneficial is writing, because I've come across this creator lately called Dan Coe, and Dan has been sharing insights about copywriting. I know from my experience in my life and in my degree, and also in all of the jobs that I've done, that writing has been very much impactful and influential in all of those spaces. And so writing is something that I have skill set in. So going forward, I think that the way to continue to strengthen my personal brand is to take writing to the next level. And this could look like the creation of a blog, the creation of a daily letter. Perhaps a blog and the daily letter are the same thing. Creating an account on some of these threads platforms, perhaps that's X and or threads, and to share ideas on those platforms, and to strengthen the captions on short form videos on the various short form content platforms, and to also post long form content on LinkedIn. I'm starting to see that the copywriting throughout this entire time is something to take forward. And the other thing to take forward is perhaps another YouTube channel in which I post shorter videos that are more than a minute but less than 30 minutes. And perhaps that other YouTube channel has a bit more editing to it, and perhaps it has a bit sharing ideas in a way for people to consume in a shorter time frame than a 1 hour long podcast. Okay, so copywriting, long form pieces of content, another YouTube channel that has videos that are longer than a minute but less than 30 minutes, the creation of social media profile on X platform, and the creation of some type of digital product that will support my coaching skill set. And remember, having the insight and expertise into the benefits of meditation is so profound and significant that I think that there are many people that are ready to take mental clarity, emotional stability, and inner peace to the next level. And I think that to create the digital product, to be able to share that expertise is something that will be very much impactful for this next stage of my journey. So, if there's anything that I need to take away from this point, is that those four actions are the way to proceed going forward. And for the audience that's watching this, for you that's watching this, I think the main takeaways for you that I can summarize is that my business journey has not been a straightforward path that I've just figured out how to do it. You saw that from August 2021, the first thing that I did was to register the business, and I started out with a 7,000 Rand course in dropshipping. But from that dropshipping course, I took skills that I then harnessed and applied to various other spaces and recognized that the best space to apply those skills were to my own self and to my personal brand. And that's why creating the landing pages, doing copywriting, doing social media content creation, doing video editing, creating advertising on social media, and so forth have become so much very beneficial. And it all started with me learning from that course. Another takeaway from my business journey is that each time I learned something from talking to my clients and my customers, I made sure to optimize my business practice and to optimize my advertising and marketing to better highlight those things that people were experiencing as pain points. So when I recognized that from, let's say, spiritual life coaching, that the most challenging thing that people were facing was imperturbability, which was they were being very much shaken by life and life challenges, that perhaps I could then talk about mental clarity, emotional stability, and inner peace in my marketing materials, because emotional stability means like you have the strength to not be shaken by triggers, you know? So I optimized and I iterated. Iterated means each time I became better and better on my business marketing, but also on recognizing what is the true value that I can offer clients. I also had a vision of the life that I wanted to live, and I knew that that life that I wanted to live was not an office job, and it was not a constrained space with cruel, harsh, and cold people. I knew that that was not something that I wanted to do, and I also knew that unfortunately, when I went into corporate spaces, I just so happened to meet cold, harsh, and cruel people, and I never wanted to be like that. I always wanted the freedom of being around kind, compassionate people, and I had enough kind, compassionate people in my life to know that that was not an unrealistic goal. It was very much realistic, and my search had to continue. I also knew that from the freedom that I was looking for, it was freedom of income and freedom of time. I wanted to be wherever I wanted to be in the world at any time. And I knew that the way to do that was to have some type of personal brand that gave me the freedom of income and freedom of time. I also knew that I was very much inspired by talk show hosts, and I wanted to be able to communicate my value in a long form platform. And I knew that the way to do that was with the creation of a podcast. So wherever I went in the world, if I had the ring light, the laptop, the cell phone, the mics, that I could do a podcast, whether it was with myself sharing value and insights on my own life or with the guests speaking about things that are deep and meaningful in the Deep Topics platform. So, to summarize, again, to be able to know what you want in life is a very powerful thing. And what I've continued to do is that I've had spaces where I write continuously what my goals are, what my strategy is. I write to-do lists. I reflect on whether I've achieved things. I cross things off my list. I make sure to write new goals. I make sure to write strategies. And now with these GPTs online, they're very much like mentors. So sometimes I can say, act as this type of expert and guide me on how to do X, Y, and Z. And it will list things. And I will say, okay, these are the platforms, for instance, that I have as my social media. Which I need to eliminate because I only have so much time, and which I need to put more effort in. I can ask those types of things. So you too can ask those types of things, and you too can make sense of these platforms and can make use of these platforms to be able to create the type of life that you want to live. And there was one thing that was so much meaningful for me in my history, which was a book introduced to me by Shaun Abrams again. And this book was called The 4 Hour Work Week. And this book by Tim Ferriss was so profound that it showed me that living a remote lifestyle, remote or like a freedom of time lifestyle where you're wherever in the world you want to be at any time and you're still earning money, that was a profound game changer for me, that was so impactful that it really changed the way I looked at my life, and has also made it such that I need a break often. I find that I cannot work for months and months and months and years and not take a break. So where I see that I've had a job and then I've taken a break, and I've had a job and I've taken a break, and I've had a job and I've taken a break, and that for me is the life that I want to live. I know that I can sprint and I can run a marathon for months and years, but there must be a time where I take a break. And at the moment in my life is the time where I feel I need to take a break. And this speaks into the next stage that I'm going on, which is that I think I'm ready to leave behind this apartment. And this apartment has been so impactful for me. It has been very much the healing growth journey that I was looking for. I was looking for a space to be rehabilitated back to health. I was looking for a space to bring me back to healthy, whole, functioning, and complete. And it has done that for me. It has given me everything I thought it would. And I was also looking for the quiet space to meditate, and it has been that space for me. So I'm very much grateful for this space, and I'll have a few more weeks of Deep Topics podcasts in this seat. But the next stage of my life is me taking a break, and I think I've recognized that I'm going to go and live with my aunt for a couple of months, and I'm going to relax for 30 days, and I'm going to take some time to just be bored. I'm going to take time to just be bored, chill out, and relax. Because honestly, from August of 2021, I've been working on my business. I've not taken a break. I've moved and I've iterated and I've done new things. And to think about it, not just from August of 2021, from January of 2020, from the time I went to art school up until now, I've just been working and working and working. And I've been working on different things each time, but I've been working and working and working. And I need boredom. I need mental rest. I need to relax, and I need to figure out what's going to happen next. Or what steps do I need to put into place next? And I also need some time with my family. I need refresh and renewal time. And I've had the conversations with my mom about feeling like I'm not doing enough, or feeling like I'm not good enough, or feeling like I'm not where I need to be in life. And I've also had the conversations with my aunt about what does it mean to, live there again. And I'm glad to have seen that I have love. I have love and I am loved. I have love and I am loved, and I'm glad to see that. And it's so profound and significant to know that no matter what happens in my life, that I can say to those that I love, I'm facing a challenge. Please, can you help me? And they will help. And I remember a time in my life when I didn't feel I had the courage or strength to ask for help. And I just felt like I had to do everything on my own. And it was so hard. And I don't feel that way anymore. I can be vulnerable and I can say, okay, I'm ready. I've loved this space. I've loved it so much, and it has given me everything I thought it would. And some great and wonderful things have come from this time, like this couch. One of the great and wonderful things that have come from this time is this couch. And Bruce over here, Bruce is a great and wonderful thing that has come from this time. And I'm still thinking about who will I gift Bruce to? Maybe I'll take Bruce with me. I don't know. But yeah, it's been great, and it's been so wonderful, and I'll continue to have perhaps seven more episodes of deep topics in this space. I don't know if if this couch will be around that long, but yeah, I'm so glad and grateful for have had this time. And episode 5 of Deep Topics has really shown me about how far I've come throughout this time, and really how much I've done over the past 4 years. I've really done so much over the past 4 years, and the amount of work that I've done over the past 4 years has really been about changing or redeveloping what Shaun Mahabir looks like. Redeveloping what Shaun Mahabir looks like, because prior to 2020, I was very much in the finance chasing wealth type of mindset, in the wrong life. I was in the wrong life, and the depression continued to show me that I was in the wrong life. From that time onwards, when I decided to accept that I had creative inclination and I really wanted to be myself, and I really wanted to put my authenticity first, and I really wanted to discover what did I have to offer the world and how can I offer more of that. That was a time where I took a profound and significant look at my life, and I started to really ask some of the deeper questions in life. I found some challenging answers, but I recognized that meditation was the way to bring me clarity on who was I, and what was the next step always. And so again, I want to remind you that if you want to learn meditation, my meditation course, which is free, is now available down below. So click below and get my meditation course, which is free. And when you get this meditation course, it will help you get started in meditation. It's the very same meditation that I use in my life to calm many anxious thoughts, to relieve stress, and to release tension so that I can go into the next day and leave the problem, stress, and worries of yesterday in yesterday. If you want to get started with your meditation, click down below and download my meditation course, and it's free. It's free. You have nothing to lose. Get the meditation course, download the 12 video lessons which I personally recorded for you, and I have some guided illustrations there to help you as well. And I explain everything you need to know to do meditation, the way I do meditation. And let me tell you again, meditation has changed my life. It has been so profound and significant, and I don't doubt that it will be profound and significant for you too. So click down below and download my free meditation course and get started in your meditation journey. And you too will develop imperturbability, which is no matter what happens in your life, you will not be shaken, because you know you have this internal sense of mental clarity, emotional stability, and inner peace, and you will be able to tackle life challenges head on, knowing that no matter what happens, you will be okay. So I hope that episode 5 of Deep Topics has been helpful for you, as it has been helpful for me to reflect on this time of just how much I've done and just how far I've come in terms of recreating myself and learning so many new skills that have really been so impactful and meaningful, with taking me step by step into new and wonderful spaces in my life. From copywriting to web page design to graphic design to video editing to social media content creation to coaching to like writing. And all of these things have come together in a very wonderful way that I'm so grateful. It has made me so grateful, and now it's time to rest a little bit before the next step. Again, if you love this video, if you love this podcast, make sure to give it a like, make sure to give it stars. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on Spotify, make sure to also to subscribe. If you want to receive more Deep Topics podcasts with Shaun, if you want to receive notifications for upcoming episodes, please subscribe and leave a comment or review. Let me know what you thought of this episode. Let me know if you agreed with anything, if you found anything helpful. Let me know down below, and I would love to hear from you. And I'm so glad and grateful that you've joined me again for episode 5. And thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. And I want to wish you a wonderful week. Take care and goodbye. Thanks so much. This is Shaun. Bye, everyone.